Unsinkable ship. On 10th April 1912, the largest ship in the world set from Southampton in England to New York. She was the Titanic. The word Titanic means huge. This was her maiden voyage, that is, her first voyage. She set across the Atlantic Ocean and she carried more than 200,000 passengers. The Titanic was like a floating town. Everyone on the Titanic, everyone knew that the Titanic was the finest ship in the world. Everyone was proud to be a part of this ship. She was tall as a building with 15 stories. Inside, she was like a large hotel with grand staircases, rich rooms, and swimming pools. Everyone thought that the Titanic could never sink. They called her the Unsinkable ship. The ship's builders were so sure that they put only a few lifeboats on the ship. The journey was very comfortable. The passengers were proud because they were traveling in the best ship in the world. Then came the night of 14th April. The sky was calm, the sky was clear and the sea was calm. Many of the passengers were asleep. Captain Smith knew that there were icebergs nearby, so he sent a man to keep a watch from the top of the ship. Suddenly, at 11:40, the man saw something that grew cold. That he grew cold with fear. A huge iceberg stood right in front of the path of the Titanic. Captain Smith fought hard to steer the Titanic away from the iceberg, but the ship changed the direction slowly and her side scraped the mountain of ice. A shower of ice fell on the decks of the iceberg, and the iceberg cut through the holes across the ship inside. Water began to pour in and pour out. Captain Smith and his crew could not stop the water flooding through the ship. They knew the Titanic was in danger. The unsinkable ship was sinking. At 12:15, Captain Smith sent an urgent message to the ship's radio asking for help, 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 quick help. Titanic is sinking. Then he ordered the crew to wake all the passengers up. The ship, called the California, was just 20 miles away from a ship called the California was just 20 miles away, but she did not receive Titanic's messages. Her radio was turned off and the radio operator was asleep. A ship called the California was rare, only a few miles away. At le- uh, Meanwhile, the Titanic was sinking rapidly. The crew lowered the lifeboats into the sea, but there was only enough space in the lifeboats for 100 passengers. The Titanic had more than 2,000 people on board, and the ship began to lift into the sea. The people began to jump into the decks of the iceberg water. With its lights still shining, the Titanic stood upright for a few minutes. Then at 20:20 a.m., 15th April, she vanished into the sea. About 1,500 people drowned. Captain Smith and most of the crew were also drowned. The Carpathia ship arrived at 3:40 a.m. The ship's crew found lifeboats and saved 700 people in them. They also found chairs and places of finance blocked. The sinking of the Titanic made people think harder about the safety of passengers on the ship. They asked why ships carry such few lifeboats and why they turn off the radios. In 1993, it was decided that all ships must have enough room in their lifeboats to carry and keep the radios working enough of energy. Later, they took photographs of the wreck and brought small parts of it to the surface of the water. There were many such stories of bravery on that terrible night in April 1912. The director in 1998, the director James Cameron made a famous film called Titanic. It is a very sad film. Almost everyone who sees the film cries.